We need to be honest with ourselves. Scrolling is exciting. You never know what's going to pop up next on your feed, and every so often the algorithm rewards your continuous attention with 60 seconds of comedy, a delicious recipe you'll definitely get around to making someday, yeah right, or a statement so egregious you simply must respond to it. Scrolling is exciting until you stop and realize you feel just as tired, empty, and lonely as you did before. You don't need me to tell you that reading is a better use of your time and brain power. The problem is that when you're used to highly stimulating visuals and audio giving you a new hit of dopamine every 15 seconds, ink on paper can seem pretty dull. Well, not anymore, because over the past several years, I've perfected a reading routine that is just as exciting as scrolling, if not more so, and simple enough that you can start implementing it today, like by the end of the video. So let's cut right to the chase. The variety inherent in social media scrolling is what makes it so exciting and engrossing. Which is why I want you to read 4 books at once. Well, at least 3. The 4th is optional. The goal is not to become a speed reader or increase the number of books you read each year. I don't care if these are the only 4 books you read all year, although finishing more books may be a happy accidental byproduct of this reading routine. Instead, our goal is variety and diversity, to have an array of reading options available to satisfy different needs at different times. But the variety is not random. Each book in this routine complements the others in some way so that they amount to a cohesive reading program. You get all the novelty of variety without the overstimulation of randomness. And here's a bonus tip for making reading extra exciting: reading in a foreign language. There is nothing quite as satisfying as reading, say, Virgil's Aeneid in Latin and realizing you understand it. That's where LingQ comes in, who's kindly sponsoring today's video. Unlike other popular language learning apps, LingQ doesn't make you memorize nonsensical phrases. Instead, you learn by doing what you already enjoy, reading. LingQ has a vast library of story-based lessons in over 50 languages. But what's especially exciting is their import feature. Just upload any ebook, article, YouTube video, podcast, or even Netflix show in your target language, and LingQ will instantly generate a lesson for you. You get to learn a new language by engaging with real-world content you're actually interested in. As many of you know, I've been teaching myself classical Latin specifically because I want to read Virgil in the original. So I took my ebook of the Aeneid and imported it into LingQ, and now I have a personalized lesson guiding me through the masterpiece word by word. So if you want to finally reach your language goals with a program that works, click the link in the description below to get 40% off a 1-year subscription to LingQ when you sign up today. Thank you again to LingQ. Now, back to the video. My fellow American Gen Zs and younger millennials probably remember learning about MyPlate in school, which was the new and improved food pyramid spearheaded by Michelle Obama in 2011. If you're not familiar, it's exactly what it sounds like. A way to visualize healthy eating using a proportioned plate instead of a pyramid. MyPlate recommends that your plate consist of a quarter protein, half fruits and vegetables, quarter grains, and some dairies and sugars to the side. What does this have to do with reading, you ask? Well, I think a nutritionally balanced plate of food is analogous to a mentally stimulating and emotionally exciting reading routine, so I'm going to use it as a framework, because I finally figured out how to bring my 2 favorite things together: books and food. First up, protein is the star of the show, and for good reason. It builds and maintains your body's muscle mass, as well as skin and bone tissue. The protein of literature is anything that presents you with a challenge, which will bulk up your brain cells the same way a steak will bulk up your biceps. I had a bit too much fun with this metaphor. I was tempted to say classic literature should be the challenging centerpiece of this reading routine, and that probably would be the obvious choice, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Challenging reading is going to be different for everyone, even people already interested in the classics. For example, I know very little about Russian lit, so any of the great Russian novels, even the beginner-friendly ones, could be a protein read for me. For you, it could be a book of philosophy, or modern politics, or literary fiction that's way longer than you're used to, like one of those big-ass 500-pagers. I could keep listing things, but only you know what would be a challenge for you. My general rule of thumb, though, is that if you encounter a book that sounds interesting, but you think to yourself, I don't know if I'm ready for that, it's probably a candidate. Not only is a difficult book great for brain health and developing deep focus, but finishing it will give you a sense of accomplishment, a well-deserved dopamine hit, and motivate you to do it again. Produce. Your fruits and veggies full of essential fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Just as important as your protein, but usually presented as a side dish, you know? The produce book should be something that complements the protein book, but isn't quite as challenging and doesn't overwhelm you. To go back to my Russian lit example, say my main dish book is Anna Karenina. Maybe I'll choose a biography of Tolstoy as my side dish book, which will provide some further context and background to the novel, but generally speaking wouldn't be as dense and as difficult to read. As will become clear when we complete our plate, the goal is to have a book at the ready for any situation or state of mind we may find ourselves in where scrolling could be a temptation. The produce read is great for those days when you need a bit of a break from the meatier stuff, but still want to be intellectually engaged. This is also the book you might pull out when you're short on time and can't focus deeply, but you still want to make good use of that time. Say, like while riding the subway or waiting for an appointment. In other words, anything that's not too hard, but also not pure fluff. Bonus points if it's related to your main book. Next up, sugar. I am a full believer in everything in moderation. Eating a sweet treat every now and then probably won't kill you. It's not exactly nutritious, but not everything has to be. Sometimes we're allowed to enjoy just a delicious sensory experience. The same goes for books. There are many, many books out there, the majority really, that are written purely for entertainment. They won't unlock the secrets of the universe or turn you into the smartest person in the room, but they don't have to. They're not supposed to. It's fine. So the third book on your plate is the sweet read, the fun book. Whatever comes to your mind when you just want to have a good time. Fun is different for each of us, obviously. For me, it's anything in the horror genre or like weird girl lit. The weirder the better. This is the book you'll reach for when your brain is overloaded, you've had a shitty day, the news sucks, and you want to escape it all. Which by that description might be every day. Sometimes I come across other lovers of classic lit who really crap on genre literature and contemporary lit in general, who seem to think that every book someone reads must be highly philosophical high art. Not only is that just sort of rude and the kind of elitism that gives classics a bad rap, but I would argue that having a fun, light, silly, easy read on hand is essential for allowing your brain to rest and recharge. Plus, these sorts of books can potentially expose you to new ideas and techniques that you might not necessarily find in the literary classics or the informative nonfiction books, which is always a positive. And finally, grains. Going back to the My Plate chart, we have yet to touch our grains, and you bet I was going to complete the analogy. You know how some grains are made better than others, like quinoa versus Wonder Bread? That's why your fourth book is an optional wildcard. It's here to fill the gaps where needed. And I have two main options for this. First off, consider choosing a book that's not in your preferred reading format. Like if you primarily read physical books or ebooks, add in an audiobook here, or vice versa. What exactly this book is doesn't matter as much as the fact that this different format will have all your bases covered. Personally, I prefer physical books because I don't retain information as well through listening as I do by visually reading. But audiobooks are ideal when driving, obviously, or doing housework and I don't feel like listening to the same Spotify recommendations for the 100th time. Conversely, audiobook lovers may want a hard copy on hand for that one commute where you forget your headphones or anytime your environment is not ideal for listening. Option 2, consider an information-based or educational book that will help you in some other area of your life. For me, that's usually a book about creative writing, but some other ideas could be a music or film guide, a gardening instruction manual, a language learning textbook, knitwear design guide, rocket science for dummies, the list goes on. Since our goal is to make reading more exciting than scrolling, leveraging a different interest you have can help a lot. If the idea of improving my writing excites me and I have a book on writing nearby, then I have one more reason to pick up a book instead of my phone. Let's say I'm building a book stack from scratch and my goal is to get more acquainted with the classics while maintaining variety in my reading. The Iliad will be my main read, the classic to end all classics. It's long, involves archaic concepts, has a ton of characters to keep track of, The verse can be kind of dense depending on the translation. To get anything out of the epic requires concentration and time. With that, my side dish could be Mythology by Edith Hamilton, which is often hailed as the go-to reference for Greek, Roman, and Norse myths. The gods run around and stir up shit all over the Iliad, so understanding who they are and why they're doing what they're doing is going to make reading the epic, and all of Greco-Roman and Western literature, really, a hell of a lot easier. My optional wildcard could be the audiobook of Madeline Miller's Song of Achilles. A modern retelling provides some interesting contrast and is also a suitable audio choice for when I'm driving, doing housework, what have you. Alternately, let's say I'm not really into myth retellings, so instead I'll incorporate The Elements of Eloquence by Mark Forsyth, or any other writing craft book. Lastly, my fun book can be The Pisces by Melissa Broder. A lady bangs a fish man. That's snazzy. That's new and different. It has nothing to do with anything else. That's the point. Talk about a palate cleanser. Finally, let me answer a few troubleshooting questions you might have. Maybe you've been watching this and thinking, Joe, there is no way I can read more than one book simultaneously. It's not happening. I'm going to be completely honest. I think you can. In fact, I know you can. I believe in you. Because think about just how much stuff we're consuming all the time. Chances are you're watching multiple TV shows, listening to multiple podcasts and musicians, following multiple YouTubers, reading multiple news outlets, in addition to scrolling TikTok and Instagram. I'd argue that due to a book's physical, static nature, reading several at once is easier than all of that. So I highly encourage you to at least try, especially because this system is designed so that you can have multiple options at any given time. But if it's truly not working out for you, then treating this reading routine less like a plate and more like a sequence won't diminish the variety and the excitement too much. If you choose your books wisely, then you'll be motivated not by variety in the moment, but by looking forward to the next one. Now, because the books in this routine are chosen to complement each other, what happens when you inevitably finish one before the others? Great question, because I do think this is the trickiest bit. I've been sticking to this routine for about 4 years now, and my best advice at this point is not to overthink it, because then you end up with analysis paralysis and you're not reading anything. Allow the natural discovery process of reading to lead you to your next book. To return to this example stack, let's say you speed right through Song of Achilles because you loved Miller's style so much, so you decide to read her novel Circe next. Circe as a character doesn't appear in the Iliad, but she does play a role in the Odyssey, so that's your next challenge read. And now, after having read 2 ancient Greek epics, maybe you're curious about literary translation as a skill, so you can pick up The Philosophy of Translation by Damien Searles as your next side dish. Ultimately, there is no wrong way to read more, other than giving up. Soon enough, you'll get into your own groove, and you're free to discard anything I said and insert anything that works better for you. Well, that is it from me today. Thank you so very much for spending your time here on Thought Couture. Let me know in the comments, what are you currently reading? Or what challenging book do you think you'd like to pick up? Because I challenge you in return to simply start. Reminder, I have a Substack newsletter linked down below, where you'll find more self-education tips and resources, creative prompts, and personal essays on the aspiring writer's life. You can also find me on Instagram and Goodreads, where I post sometimes. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. That is the easiest and fastest way to support the channel. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.